Hello, everybody. So this is the first class of our first course. We decided to actually start with our governments and economic systems by doing Animal Farm. We're going to read Animal Farm by George Orwell aloud, and we're going to talk about it and compare it and contrast it with some of the government systems, particularly with what's going on today, and some historical things. As some people probably know, it was written to talk about communism and capitalism, and yeah, I don't want to give too much away, so I decided to stop talking. So what we're going to do is I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it a paragraph at a time, and we're going to make some comments, and at some point we'll start making connections, and we'll have one chapter per class. And at the end of each chapter, we will have a tiny discussion on what's going on. I just thought I'd show off the new tat, just because it's peaking and some people may wonder. So, without further ado, Animal Farm by George Orwell, Chapter 1. Mr. Jones of the Manor Farm had locked the hen houses for the night, but was too drunk to remember to shut the pop holes. With the ring of light from his lantern dancing from side to side, he lurched across the yard, kicked off his boots at the back door, drew himself a last glass of beer from the barrel in the scullery, and made his way up to bed, where Mrs. Jones was already snoring. I'm going to take a second to mention that the link to the copy that I'm reading from is in the description so that you can open it up and follow along, and you don't have to look at me. You can just listen. So what do we know already about Mr. Jones? He's too drunk to close up for the night.
Likes to drink.
He likes to drink. He had to have that last glass of beer. As soon as the light in the bedroom went out, there was a stirring and a fluttering all through the farm buildings. Word had gone round during the day that old Major, the prize middle white boar, had had a strange dream on the previous night and wished to communicate it to the other animals. It had been agreed that they should all meet in the big barn as soon as Mr. Jones was safely out of the way. Old Major, so he was always called, though the name under which he'd been exhibited was Willingdon Beauty, was so highly regarded on the farm that everyone was quite ready to lose an hour's sleep in order to hear what he had to say. So while the first paragraph seemed like it could be a real story, like a realistic story, clearly at this point we have moved into the realm of some sort of fantasy allegory, science fiction. What other category?
Right? Oh, what other category? Metaphor?
Yeah, I suppose that's isn't. But isn't an allegory kind of a big metaphor in a way?
Exactly.
Kinda. So what are we noticing? We're noticing that the pig was really was considered this great communicator. That there was something about this pig that people respected. That they couldn't speak freely until the owner was out of the way.
That's right. They couldn't have their other life.
So the idea that the animals were more full and complete beings than they were given credit for. They were exhibited, they were used, they were just considered animals. But when the master's gone, they're people. And I think that speaks to dehumanized and oppressed peoples in general. Mm-hmm. Now, I know that it's talking about like the workers back in the day, in industrial times, but I also see this as an allegory for slaves and how they weren't really considered human, but look at the rich cultural life that was developed when white people weren't present.
Right.
It's kind of interesting. Right. So when the oppressors leave, something else goes on. I think that's an interesting thing I'd like to apply into other things. Does that work in households? Of course it does. When the parents are away, the kids will play, right?
Right.
Okay, at one end of the big barn, on a sort of raised platform, Major was already ensconced on his bed of straw, under a lantern which hung from a beam. He was 12 years old, and had lately grown rather stout, but he was still a majestic-looking pig, with a wise and benevolent appearance, in spite of the fact that his tushes had never been cut. Tusks, but spelled like that?
Uh-oh.
I don't know. Tushes. Before long, the other animals began to arrive and make themselves comfortable after their different fashions. First came the 3 dogs, Bluebell, Jessie, and Pincher, and then the pigs, who settled down in the straw immediately in front of the platform. The hens perched themselves on the window sills. The pigeons fluttered up to the rafters. The sheep and cows lay down behind the pigs and began to chew the cud. The 2 cart horses, Boxer and Clover, came in together, walking very slowly and setting down their vast hairy hooves with great care lest there should be some small animal concealed in the straw. Clover was a stout motherly mare approaching middle life, who had never quite got her figure back after her 4th foal. Boxer was an enormous beast, nearly 18 hands high, and as strong as any 2 ordinary horses put together. A white stripe down his nose gave him a somewhat stupid appearance, and in fact he was not of first-rate intelligence, but he was universally respected for his steadiness of character and tremendous powers of work. After the horses came Muriel, the white goat, and Benjamin, the donkey. Benjamin was the oldest animal on the farm and the worst-tempered. He seldom talked, and when he did, it was usually to make some cynical remark. For instance, he would say that God had given him a tail to keep the flies off, but that he would sooner have had no tail and no flies. Alone among the animals on the farm, he never laughed. If asked why, he would say that he saw nothing to laugh at. Nevertheless, without openly admitting it, he was devoted to Boxer. The 2 of them usually spent their Sundays together in the small paddock beyond the orchard, grazing side by side and never speaking. The 2 horses had just lain down. Well, end of paragraph. It was a long paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think of the introduction of the different creatures?
Well, I wasn't sure. I was wondering if there's a hierarchy to it, but
That's what I was thinking. That was literally the word that came to mind. Are they settling in places and in ways that tell us something about them? And will we want to go along? Like, for example, the pigs being so attentive and being right at the platform, and the dogs coming in and settling behind them.
mm-hmm.
The hens being fluttery. The 2 horses had just lain down when a brood of ducklings which had lost their mother filed into the barn, cheeping feebly and wandering from side to side to find some place where they would not be trodden on. Clover made a sort of wall around them with her great foreleg, and the ducklings nestled down inside it and promptly fell asleep. At the last moment, Molly, the foolish, pretty, white mare, who drew Mr. Jones's trap, came mincing daintily in, chewing in a lump of sugar. She took a place near the front and began flirting her white mane, hoping to draw attention to the red ribbons it was plaited with. Last of all came the cat, who looked around as usual for the warmest place, and finally squeezed herself in between Boxer and Clover. There she purred contentedly throughout Major's speech without listening to a word of what he was saying. All of the animals were now present except Moses, the tame raven, who slept on a perch behind the back door. When Major saw they'd all made themselves comfortable and were waiting attentively, he cleared his throat and began. And before I read what he said, it strikes me that some animals are there to be smart, some are there to have utility, and some are there, like the white one, the white female, which is an interesting thing in itself, the white female who lives to impress the master.
Right.
And then there's Moses, where you kind of wonder, why isn't he there?
Mm-hmm.
Ravens are very intelligent, so what's going on with him?
Right.
It almost makes me wonder, looking at the raven with Poe,
Mm-hmm.
and this raven, that would be an interesting comparison later.
Yeah.
depending on what this raven does.
Exactly. Exactly.
So Major cleared his throat and began. Comrades, you have heard already about the strange dream that I had last night, but I will come to the dream later. I have something else to say first. I do not think, comrades, that I shall be with you for many months longer, and before I die, I feel it my duty to pass on to you such wisdom as I have acquired. I have had a long life. I have had much time for thoughts as I lay alone in my stall, and I think I may say that I understand the nature of life on this earth as well as any animal now living. It is about this that I wish to speak to you. So this one's educated as well as intelligent? I mean, I'm just saying the implication, right?
Right.
Now, comrades, what is the nature? I lost my spot. I love that always. Oh, what is the nature of this life of ours? Let us face it. Our lives are miserable, laborious, and short. We are born. We are given just so much food as will keep the breath in our bodies, and those of us who are capable of it are forced to work to the last atom of our strength. And the very instant that our usefulness has come to an end, we are slaughtered with hideous cruelty. No animal in England knows the meaning of happiness or leisure after he's a year old. No animal in England is free. The life of an animal is misery and slavery. That is the plain truth. So again, remember, he's talking about the working class. Right. He's talking about the industrial workers that didn't have the unions yet and didn't have the protections, excuse me, that we have today. But again, apply it the way that I said too. It's being oppressed is being oppressed. And if they're going to mention slavery, then we need to mention slavery. Wage slavery.
Right.
Debt slavery,
slavery,
chattel slavery, media slavery, slavery is part of a cult. I don't know. He goes on. But is this simply part of the order of nature? Is it because this land of ours is so poor that it cannot afford a decent life to those who dwell upon it? No, comrades, 1,000 times no. The soil of England is fertile. Its climate is good. It is capable of affording food in abundance to an enormously greater number of animals than now inhabit it. This single farm of ours would support a dozen horses, 20 cows, hundreds of sheep, and all of them living in a comfort and a dignity that are now almost beyond our imagining. Why then do we continue in this miserable condition? Because near the whole of the produce, okay, sorry, I was looking for the American product, but produce. Because nearly the whole of the produce of our labor is stolen from us by human beings. There, comrades, is the answer to all of our problems. It is summed up in a single word. Man. Man is the only real enemy we have. Remove man from the scene and the root cause of hunger and overwork is abolished forever. Now replace that with capitalists, replace that with white people, replace that with plantation owners, replace that with, well, keep it man and think about the bear and the women and remove man from the scene. Now, do we really want to remove men? No. We want to remove the patriarchy. We want to remove the power of the wealthy and the strong and the snarky and the supported by government. Remove their ability to oppress. That's what we mean by remove man from the scene. Well, that's what I mean. I'm not sure what Orwell meant. Orwell obviously is speaking for Old Major, and Old Major clearly means humans and the owner here. He continues. Man is the only creature that consumes without producing. He does not give milk. He does not lay eggs. He is too weak to pull the plow. He cannot run fast enough to catch rabbits. Yet he is the Lord of all the animals. He sets them to work. He gives back to them the bare minimum that will prevent them from starving, and the rest he keeps for himself. Our labor tills the soil. Our dung fertilizes it. And yet there is not one of us that owns more than his bare skin. Like right now, we're also just looking at billionaires. I didn't mention them earlier.
Right.
who is it that takes without really producing? They may feel like they create, but what they do is they use a portion of the money that they've taken from everyone to create something to give them more and us still a trickle. So, sure. You cows that I see before me, how many thousands of gallons of milk have you given during this last year? And what has happened to that milk which should have been breeding up sturdy calves? Every drop of it has gone down the throats of our enemies. And you hens, how many eggs have you laid in the last year, and how many of those eggs ever hatched into chickens? The rest have all gone to market to bring in money for Jones and his men. Note, they didn't mention his wife. It's Jones and his men who get the money. The wife, she's an appendage of Jones. She doesn't matter, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. And you, Clover, where are those 4 foals you bore, who should have been the support and pleasure of your old age? Each was sold at a year old. You will never see one of them again. In return for your 4 confinements and all your labor in the fields, what have you ever had except your bare rations in a stall? I go back again to my interpretation where it's slavery. I know when I first read this book, I didn't know about communism yet, but I knew about slavery. And I applied it, and it was just amazing to me and horrifying, and I got it.
Right?
Yeah. To a point. And then I was kind of confused, but when I learned more about Trotsky and Lenin and Stalin and whatnot, I got it a lot better. And he goes on. And even the miserable lives we lead are not allowed to reach their natural span. For myself, I do not grumble. For I am one of the lucky ones. I am 12 years old and have had over 400 children. Sorry. Elon Musk. Such is the natural life of a pig. I really didn't mean that sentence to follow the other. I'm sorry. But no animal escapes the cruel knife in the end. You young porkers who are sitting in front of me, every one of you will scream your lives out at the block within a year. To that horror we all must come. Cows, pigs, hens, sheep, everyone. Even the horses and the dogs have no better fate. You boxer, the very day that those great muscles of yours lose their power, Jones will sell you to the knacker, who will cut your throat and boil you down for the foxhounds. As for the dogs, when they grow old and toothless, Jones ties a brick round their necks and drowns them in the nearest pond.
Wow. Horrid.
But again, what happens? What happens when you get too old to work and be useful to billionaires, capitalists, plantation owners?
Right.
Every one of you will scream your lives out at the block. Remember, this is before unions.
Right.
And there may have been debtors' prisons, particularly in England at the point. I'm not sure. He wrote this, in the 30s, though? Right? Or is it before then?
No, maybe at least the 30s.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it not crystal clear then, comrades, that all the evils of this life of ours spring from the tyranny of human beings? Only get rid of man, and the produce of our labor would be our own. Almost overnight, we could become rich and free. What then must we do? Why, work night and day, body and soul, for the overthrow of the human race. That is my message to you, comrades. Rebellion! I do not know when that rebellion will come. It might be a week or in 100 years, but I know as surely as I see the straw beneath my feet that sooner or later justice will be done. That reminds me of the moral arc, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Fix your eyes on that, comrades, throughout the short remainder of your lives. And above all, pass on this message of mine to those who come after you, so that future generations shall carry on the struggle until it is victorious. And remember, comrades, your resolution must never falter. No argument must lead you astray. Never listen when they tell you that man and the animals have a common interest, that the prosperity of the one is the prosperity of the others. It is all lies. Man serves the interests of no creature except himself. And among us animals, let there be perfect unity, perfect comradeship in the struggle. All men are enemies. All animal are comrades. That's the role of Marx, no?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe Trotsky, but I'm not sure about that. Marx.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's saying, not that we're personally exactly going to bring it about, but someday it will come.
That's right.
This is natural. It is organic. This is going to happen. I feel it in my bones. But Marx didn't say, let's do this right now. He didn't have a call to arms, right?
No.
But the call to arms of saying never falter, rebellion, so that the mental thinking was rebellion at this point. At this moment, there was a tremendous uproar. While Major was speaking, 4 large rats had crept out of their holes and were sitting on their hindquarters listening to him. The dogs had suddenly caught sight of them, and it was only by a swift dash for their holes that the rats saved their lives. Major raised his trotter for silence. "Comrades," he said, "here is a point that must be settled. The wild creatures, such as the rats and rabbits, are they our friends or our enemies? Let us put it to the vote. I propose this question to the meeting. Are rats comrades?" So who are the rats, the wild creatures? What do you think he means? I mean, if it were Rome, I would say the barbarians.
Or maybe the peasants.
The peasants. The homeless, like. In other words, like, or the disabled, or the...
Right.
The slaves. I don't know.
Right.
Because who are the rats? They're the wild creatures. They're more free. These are the domestic creatures. These are the ones being currently oppressed. Who are the wild creatures? I'm not 100% sure in this situation. Now, what about in my situation? We're talking about the people on the plantation who would be the wild creatures. Tubman? But she was more than a... Is she part of things? Maybe, like, no, I don't know. And it's too hard for me to speak to what an oppressed group might actually think. And when I think about, like, the Jews in the Second World War, I don't feel that this fits them. That situation or their ghettos, it's not the same thing.
Right.
So who would be the... Well, no... I don't know, because I just don't know if there was allowed to be a group of people who were sort of that in between. So what if it wasn't, what if the peasants is one idea, and what about something like the money lenders or the small business owners? Going back to this situation in real life. I don't know. That's interesting to me. Because we need to see then how the rats behave.
Right.
To see. The vote was taken at once, and it was agreed by an overwhelming majority that rats were comrades. There were only 4 dissentients. Dissentients? The 3 dogs and the cat, who was afterwards discovered to have voted on both sides. But it says something then, too. Who is the cat? Note that the dogs, why would they vote that they weren't? Because they want to hunt them. So
right.
That's, see what I mean about the rats maybe in the situation being who are the more oppressed. So goes back again to your peasant idea, to the disabled, to the whoever would be the blacks of the day or the Jews of the day. Mm-hmm. It kind of comes into some of that. Maybe. They're also very powerful, the rats. So, I'm fascinated, and the cat voted on both sides is fascinating. Major continues. You cows... Oh, no, wait a minute. Did I go back a page instead of up a page?
I think so.
Lame. Luckily, we can cut some of this, right?
Yeah.
I have little more to say. I merely repeat, remember always your duty of enmity towards man and all his ways. Whatever goes upon 2 legs is an enemy. Whatever goes upon 4 legs or has wings is a friend. And remember also that in fighting against man, we must not come to resemble him. Talk about foreshadowing. I didn't catch that before. Wow. We must not come to resemble him. Even when you have conquered him, do not adopt his vices. No animal must ever live in a house or sleep in a bed or wear clothes or drink alcohol or smoke tobacco or touch money or engage in trade. All the habits of man are evil. And above all, no animal must ever tyrannize over his own kind. Weak or strong, clever or simple, we are all brothers. No animal must ever kill any other animal. All animals are equal. And now, comrades, I will tell you about my dream of last night. We're all the same. We're all equal. That's a dream, all right, as it is.
Right.
But it's interesting to me that that's a version of the Declaration of Independence in its own way. And they're saying that we didn't kind of live up to that, which we didn't. So, and they're also saying that capitalists can't be part of this. And that whatever capitalists and billionaires, well, of course they didn't have billionaires, but multi-thousandaires, hundreds of thousandaires at the time, maybe. Do they have millionaires? I guess so, huh?
Yeah.
Because in the Gilded Age, they had millionaires and multimillionaires. All right. They're saying here they're not like us. In the same way that we were saying back when that kings are not like us. So there's some of that. They're saying that when people broke away from kings and aristocrats, that they created a new aristocracy out of capitalists, and that needs to be also brought down. Which, see, I kind of agree with that. It's just what happened. Where did it go? And this is why we're looking at this book in particular. And now, comrades, I will tell you about my dream of last night. I cannot describe that dream to you. It was a dream of the earth as it will be when man has vanished. But it reminded me of something I had long forgotten. Many years ago, when I was a little pig, my mother and other sows and other sows used to sing an old song of which they knew only the tune and the first 3 words. I had known that tune in my infancy, but it had long since passed out of my mind. Last night, however, it came back to me in my dream, and what is more, the words of the song also came back. Words, I'm certain, which were sung by the animals of long ago and have been lost to memory for generations. I will sing you that song now, comrades. I am old, and my voice is hoarse, but when I've taught you the tune, you can sing it better for yourselves. It's called Beasts of England. Old Major cleared his throat and began to sing. As he had said, his voice was hoarse. Sorry, there's a joke in there because of the horses, but I'm just not. But he sang well enough, and it was a stirring tune, something between Clementine and La Cucaracha. Clementine. Da 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 da. Huckleberry Hound. And da 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 da. Let's see. Wait. I did this for all my students when I did this particular thing, because we'd read some of this book. No, I can't. I don't think I could then either. So I sort of stuck with Clementine, but I don't think I'm going to sing it. I will read it. But now I want to sing it because it's, right? It's so simple, though, to Clementine. It's beasts of England, beasts of Ireland, beasts of every land and clime. Hearken to my joyful tidings of the golden future time. And I wouldn't know how to quite do it to La Cucaracha. Beasts of England, beasts of Ireland, beasts of every land. See, it doesn't work the same way. Yeah. Soon or late the day is coming. Tyrant man shall be o'erthrown, and the fruitful fields of England shall be trod by beasts alone. Rings shall vanish from our noses, and the harness from our back. Bit and spur shall rust forever, cruel whips no more shall crack. Riches more than mine can picture, wheat and barley, oats and hay, Clover beans and mangelwurzels shall be ours upon that day. Bright will shine the fields of England, purer shall its waters be, sweeter yet shall blow its breezes on the day that sets us free. For that day we all must labor, though we die before it break. Cows and horses, geese and turkeys, all must toil for freedom's sake. Beasts of England, beasts of Ireland, beasts of every land and clime, hearken while and spread my tidings of the golden future time. So again, you can apply it to all these things we're talking about. Workers back in the day, farm workers,
Right.
people in other countries that yearn to be free, slaves at any particular time. Imagine your oppressor vanishing from the earth and you get to walk free.
Right.
Okay. The singing of this song threw the animals into the wildest excitement. Almost before Major had reached the end, they had begun singing it for themselves. Even the stupidest of them had already picked up the tune and a few of the words. And as far as the clever ones, such as the pigs and dogs, they had the entire song by heart in a few minutes. And then, after a few preliminary tries, the whole farm burst out into Beasts of England in tremendous unison. The cows lowed it, the dogs whined it, the sheeps bleated it, the horses whinnied it, the ducks quacked it. They were so delighted with the song that they sang it right through 5 times in succession and might have continued singing it all night if they had not been interrupted. An anthem, a uniting anthem.
There you go.
And how are they interrupted? Unfortunately, the uproar woke Mr. Jones, who sprang out of bed, making sure there was a fox in the yard. Making sure? Thought he was sure. Finding out?
Right.
Let me read that sentence again because I thought that was odd. Unfortunately, the uproar woke Mr. Jones, who sprang out of bed, making sure that there was a fox in the yard. He seized the gun, which always stood in a corner of his bedroom, and let fly a charge of number 6 shots into the darkness. The pellets buried themselves into the wall of the barn, and the meeting broke up hurriedly. Everyone fled to his own sleeping place. The birds jumped onto their perches, the animals settled down in the straw, and the whole farm was asleep in a moment.
Wow.
Rebellion needs to be kept secret.
Yeah, right.
But in this case, it wasn't really rebellion yet. It was lighting a flame.
Exactly. Exuberance.
The huddled masses yearning to be free.
Right.
Yeah. So, bringing this to today, I guess what comes to mind for me right away is the protests all over the country, spontaneous protests, planned protests, people coming together in a unity, chanting, holding up signs, repeating slogans,
Right.
and trying to throw off the new oppressors, the new old oppressors.
The new old oppressors, right?
We'll see you tomorrow for chapter 2.